On this episode of the Who Is This podcast, we sit down and talk with Gila Valley native Shaffen Woods. Shaffen is a United States Air Force veteran, and we had a great time talking about his time in the Air Force and how that path led him to where he is today. Shaffen just recently retired from the Thatcher Police Force, where he served for about 24 years. 12 of those years spent as the Thatcher Police Chief. Shaffen has been serving the citizens of Thatcher for so long that he almost feels out of place not being in some type of service role for the town. That is his main reason for now running for one of the 4 open seats on Thatcher's Town Council. Being involved with the town for so long, both as a deputy and in supervising positions such as police chief, Shaffen definitely has a unique and valuable perspective that he would be bringing with him if elected to Thatcher's Council. We had a great time getting to know him better. Enjoy. Well, thanks for coming, Shaffen.
Thank you.
We're excited to chat and see what's up. This is the Who Is This podcast. We've had we're 13 or 14 now.
We're in the teens.
We're definitely in the teens. So, go ahead, introduce yourself and don't be nervous, dude. This is honestly just a conversation, right? That's all it is, and there's not many people to watch this. So.
Hey, you know what? Every day I get somebody else that's like, dude, I love the podcast. So I'm like, no way, that's awesome.
Well, I lived my life trying to not be on YouTube. So
Yeah.
this is kind of kind of unique.
Now that you're not in the so tell us about that, because tell us about your background and stuff, and
Yeah. So my name's Shaffen Woods, and I've been pretty much almost a lifelong resident here. I started out my early years, talking like elementary school years. I lived in Morenci. My dad worked for the mine, and came to Thatcher about junior high, and so I'm 48.
So were you born here at the hospital here, or were you born?
I was born in Safford.
Okay.
Born in Safford. My family. My dad kind of worked at a few different jobs, but he mainly worked at Phelps Dodge, for most of my life. And so my family started out in Morenci. Lived there till about, I think I was about 12 years old. My family moved to Thatcher. She also went to junior high in Thatcher. We went back to Morenci for about half of my freshman year in high school, and then back to Thatcher again. So that's where I finished. I graduated from Thatcher High School in 1994, and right out of high school, I went straight into the Air Force. Did some time there. I was stationed overseas. I spent 2 years in Japan. Spent some time in the Middle East. Spent some time in Idaho. Was my final duty station.
Japan, Middle East, and Idaho.
Yes, yeah.
Spent
some time in Korea as well.
Okay.
While I was stationed in Japan, I went to Korea on 2 different occasions for. I got to see a little bit of the world, from leaving from a small town. And
so, how long were you in the Air Force?
Just about 4 years. I had a federal enlistment. I got out just a few months early. That was during the Clinton years. So there's a lot of downsizing. So after year 3, they offer you a career job reservation to reenlist, which I did get.
Mm-hmm.
I opted to not reenlist, and so they said, "Okay, cool. If you're not going to reenlist, if you want to go to college or if you want to go do something else, we'll let you out early." So that's kind of happened. So,
okay.
So about 3 years, 7-8 months total is what I was in the Air Force for.
So when you're, because that's a pivotal point in your life, right?
Yeah.
That's a big decision. What do you take into consideration when you're deciding re-enlist? Because career military is a big commitment, but that's 2 completely different paths. So what kind of led your decision?
So, interestingly enough, I was a very stubborn kid, right? Growing up, my dad was a Marine. My dad served in Vietnam. My whole, looking up. I always said, if I'm going to be in the military, I'm going to join the Marine Corps, right? That was kind of what I just was, in my mind, was the thing to do.
A lot of kids follow their parents.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of the easy thing for me to do. My dad did it. I'll do it. And I had goals of, I want to go to college, right? That was always my goal. I wanted to play baseball in college. I wanted to do, all that, like most, a lot of high school kids do. You got big dreams. I had some injuries, and so, that really wasn't an option for me. So when I got to that point, right, where I was going to graduate high school, I knew that I wanted to do something. I didn't have any money to pay for college, right? So the military was kind of a natural option for me. However, I had an older brother, and we joined about the same time. And my dad, I was 17 at the time. My dad told me, he's like, I will sign for you to go whatever branch you want to go into, but I will not sign for you to go in the Marine Corps. And I was probably, so I enlisted in September of my senior year in high school. And, I turned 18 in November. So I wasn't a very smart kid, because I could have just waited 2 months and just joined the Marines, and I wouldn't have made it on the other side. But I was so adamant about doing it, that he signed for me, and I joined the Air Force. And looking back on it, was a very good thing that he did, because my quality of life was a lot better in the Air Force.
Okay.
However, getting back to your question, as far as what my decision was to leave the military, so they actually coincidentally offered me my 3 years right at my year 3, where I got my career job reservation, and what that at the time required you to have like almost perfect evaluations, and you had to have the recommendations from your supervisors, and you basically, they only wanted to keep the choice ones, right? And then because like I said, they were downsizing, and this was in between Gulf Wars, right? So thankfully, I actually offered me my career job reservation while I was in Saudi Arabia, living in a tent in the summer, out in nowhere. So it made it kind of, and at the time I had just done, that October is when I had transferred from Japan back to Idaho. Okay. So, and when I enlisted, I only wanted to stay stateside. I wanted to go to Tucson, Phoenix. I kind of want to stay close to home.
Mm-hmm.
I got orders to Japan right off the gate. My brother, on the other hand, who, like I said, enlisted the same time as me, they sent him to Tucson, and he stayed in over 20 years and retired.
Oh, wow.
And the majority of that was in Tucson. So he got always what he wanted. I always kind of fell in the Air Force needs category. Mm-hmm. And it was cool and all, but I didn't want to be, moving around all the time. And at Mountain Home at the time, that base, we probably every 6 months, it would have been another rotation to the desert for me.
And you're kind of at the mercy that you're going to go where they tell you to go, right?
Yeah. And I wasn't married at the time. And, they said it didn't matter, but the guys without families got deployed a lot.
Yeah.
It's more random, routinely than guys that got a family, It's a little
randomly. Yeah.
Yeah. And they claim, well, so that's the thing. That was what was funny to me is like I said, I was in Japan for 2 years. When I got back in October to the States, and it was June. I was already getting deployed again overseas. Wow. And, I just knew that eventually I wanted a family, and, it's like, this is probably not going to be the best situation for me with the family. Is going, every 6 months getting deployed back to the desert. And that's because that's kind of what was happening.
I wouldn't like that either. I wouldn't like not having any say in where I'm going.
Yeah. And, I was stationed at Misawa, Japan, which is in the very north of the main island. And so it was cold. It snowed a lot, for an Arizona kid. Yeah. I mean, it was like, we're talking like hundreds of inches a year of snow. And when it wasn't snowing, it was raining. So I was ready to come back and enjoy the sun and everything. And right before summer starts in Idaho, of all places, it was beautiful up there.
Yeah.
You're going to the desert, right? So, and when I got to the airport on the East Coast before we went overseas, there was probably 6 or 8 guys from my previous unit in Japan. We were all there together, and the same thing happened to them. So it's been like, yeah, thanks for being overseas for 2 years. Guess what? You're going back,
Yeah.
So, but there was guys stateside that, I'd never known.
Right. They're probably wanting to.
Yeah, a lot of them wanted to. And I'm kind of like, man, I'm good to stay here.
What was your job in the Air Force?
So I worked in fuels. I refilled jets, storage, all that kind of stuff. It was a good job. I kind of enjoyed it. But
do you think that had anything to do with like how and where you got deployed? And
no, I think the base when I came back to Mountain Home, I know at the time was they call it an Air Expeditionary Wing, which is, at the time, we had B-1 bombers, F-15Es, Cs, and F-16s, and tankers. And so our unit was designed to be able to deploy anywhere in the world and fight 3 days. Wow. And so it was kind of it was a cool unit to be a part of, with the exception of all the deployments that came with that, right? Because there wasn't very many like that. Generally, the Air Force got to take pieces from all over the place to make a unit, right? Whereas we could just all go together and be in business.
So we're similar in that fact. When I was out of high school and college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I strongly considered joining the Border Patrol. And took tests and everything and got to the point where, but I think it was like my last test, right? And I finally realized, I was like, I got it. They basically give you 3 options. And if you turn down, they give you 1 option, you can turn it down. They give you the second one, you turn it down. They give you a third. If you turn it down, then you're done. I'm like, I don't want my career to dictate where I live.
Yeah.
You know, I just wasn't comfortable with that. So I would struggle with that as well, and being in the military.
Yeah. And you know, and that's the thing, like there was, I did get, you know, I got a GI Bill, you know, so they provided some money for education for me, which that was, you know, I should have taken advantage of more educational opportunities that I had while I was in, you know, hindsight 2020, right? I didn't know that at the time. I tell all my kids, right? Like take advantage of any free school you can get because it is pricey. So, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed my time in the Air Force. I was happy when it was over. Didn't know what I was going to do with my life at that point, you know, but,
so that was option, you know, that was road A that you decided not to go down. So where did your path go at that point?
Yeah. So after I got out, I got out in January of, what was that, 98 was when I got out. So I actually had some leave time. So I was actually able to come home for Christmas that year. Christmas Eve, or it was either Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve, you know, I come back to town and I'm like, I got to just get a job, go to college, got to figure out my life from there. Didn't really know what I was going to do. I kind of always had in the back of my mind that I would coach, you know, coach and be a high school baseball coach and a high school teacher. That's kind of what I thought I was going to do. I was able to, getting back to that, you know, I had a buddy, a good friend of mine that I went to high school with, who was a police officer in Pima, of all places. And he calls me, you know, I just wanted to kind of see my buddy in a few years. And so, you know, got a hold of him and he happened to be working. He's like, hey, how come I pick you up? Just come ride with me. And we'll just go cruise around and hang out and, you know, shoot the bull or whatever. And so it's cool. So he did, and he picked me up, dude, and we had so much fun. Like, I was like, I couldn't believe Pima, right? Like, I was enamored by being a police officer in Pima, Arizona. You can imagine, which, no disrespect to Pima.
It's just, you don't think of exciting towns to be a cop in. Thatcher, Pima, or Safford, you wouldn't think it very exciting.
You know, it wasn't. And, but for whatever reason that night, it was super fun. We had a lot going on. And you know, I was like, man, you get paid to do this? Like, this is cool, man. I could do this, you know? Yeah. So, you know, I kind of planted the seed.
Do you remember like what happened that night? Like,
you know,
what was so exciting?
We pulled over a guy. I remember we pulled over this guy. You know, there was a lot of Christmas lights out, and there were people, you know, looking at Christmas lights because it's almost Christmas. And this guy was running off the road, and you know, he ran off the road. So I'm like, man, something's wrong with that guy. He ended up being a drunk driver, so he arrested a drunk driver. You know, had a couple fights. You know, just a couple like routine, normal police calls. But to me, for whatever reason, it just is super intriguing to me. Yeah. You know, and I, you know, it's fun. You're driving fast and, you know, lights are on, you know, just do cop things, you know, and I had a good time. And so, and to do that with your high school buddy, you know, but yeah, it was even more fun. So, so that kind of planted the seed in my mind. But at the same time, I got hired at Thatcher High School. Don Conrad, I don't know if you know, I think you know Don. Yeah. Don hires me to be his assistant baseball coach that spring. So I coached one season then.
What year was that?
Don. That would have been 98. The spring of 98.
So did you coach my brother Trey?
No, Trey was 96 because he was.
Oh, that's right. I always do that. He graduated in 96. He was on. Okay.
So I want to try to remember some of the guys. Luke Johnson, he was on that team. Jason McLean, Andy Wright, a couple of those guys. Brad Hinton, I think, was on that team. It's a pretty good team actually. I think we went to state. We ended up losing at state to Wilcox, who ended up winning state that year. It was a pretty good team. It was a fun time. However, I'd say that was my goal, right? That was kind of like my testing the waters if this is what I want to do.
Right.
And, had a great time. Loved the kids, loved Don. And we had a good season, but coming straight out of the military to high school kids playing baseball, I struggled bad with the lack of discipline that high school kids have, right?
Especially baseball. Baseball is probably the least disciplined sport, except for when Coach Morales was my coach.
Yes.
And he was extremely disciplined. Yes. It was still a good time, but yeah.
Yes. And so I came up under the Coach Morales era too. So in my mind, that's how you play baseball, right?
Right.
your shirts are tucked in, everything is organized. Coach Morales is phenomenal at organization, right? And so in my mind, that's what baseball was.
Yeah.
Don Conrad loved the guy. He's not as concerned with that as maybe Coach Morales would be, right?
Yeah.
But he had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the kids had a lot of fun. And looking back now, that was definitely more enjoyable, or would have been, had I played under that kind of system. I love baseball no matter what. But, and I love Coach Morales. But yeah, but for me at that particular time in my life, I was not ready for that. To me, it was, I don't know, I had a lot of internal conflicts with that kind of system.
So I can see that, like, just wanting to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah. And it was fun. I really, I love baseball. I love football. I do coach now, but it's it was different. And then so that obviously, and then the whole, I still need to go to college. I still need to get my education. I still need to make some money. All those things. I'm like, I can't realize I'm not ever going to make any money being a school teacher, right? Sadly, that's the one of the sad things of our society is that the school teachers aren't making what I believe they should be making.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, so after that, I kind of like turned my attention to looking at law enforcement and EAC happened to have a police academy at that time, and so Thatcher Police Department, I met with them and they offered to sponsor me to the academy. I paid for it, paid my way through the police academy, got certified in 1999, and right before graduation, Thatcher had a job opening, and I was able to get a job with Thatcher PD.
So did you have your entire police career? Were you with Thatcher the whole time?
Yep, 25 years.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, I started April '99 in Thatcher. As a patrolman. I think my salary was like $24,000 or something, right? It might as well have been $1 million to me. I was just excited. It was, we look back, I would have, and a lot of guys tell you, I would have done it for free.
Yeah.
And some guys did. A lot of guys then, were reserve officers, and they just, it was fantastic. It was a good time.
Did you guys make fun of the reserve officers?
From time to time. I'll just say, everybody gets made fun of.
Yes.
Well, when that's equal opportunity red starts.
My mind goes to Dwight Schrute being a volunteer. If you're an Office fan, I have no idea how it works, but that's.
Well, no, that's 100% true. But these guys, a lot of time there was a lot of reserves back then, not as many today. Because why? A lot more. For one, why would you want to work for free?
Right.
And
especially that type of job.
Why would you want to get shot at for free? You start thinking about like, if I get hurt, I can't go to my real job.
Right.
And things like that. So not too many people do that anymore.
Is that even an option?
It is. Actually, I'm still a reserve officer with the town.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm still on the books.
Oh, okay.
Reserve officer.
I mean, they have the volunteer fire department. I knew that was a thing. I didn't realize that you.
Yeah, the sheriff's office. I don't know if they have any. They usually have a reserve program, and I think Stafford District. Generally, guys who retire and or go to the academy, they kind of use it for guys who go to the academy, to get people in the academy.
Gotcha.
And then I know guys that want to keep their certifications. Then,
so if I wanted to go and become a reserve officer, that's probably not something that, like, just some random person that wanted to volunteer on the
academy.
Yes, you do. And the academies, I think. So back when I went through, there were part-time academies available, and I don't know if there is anymore. Yeah. So yeah, you'd have to basically quit your job for 4 to 6 months and go to the academy, and not too many people are willing to do that. So I think that's the EAC doesn't have their academy anymore. So at the time, a lot of people would go through the academy, but they had their day job, and then they would become a reserve officer, and then it gave them options, if they wanted to. But I know Thatcher County, Safford, a lot of the local agencies were hiring from that pool, of people that had already been certified, reserve officers and whatnot.
Like an intern position.
Kind of was, yeah. And for the agency, it's good because, you get the opportunity to see what you're going to get. We know if this guy's going to be a good cop or not, or vice versa. So it's almost kind of like, screening out your applicants. But yeah, no, I was fortunate enough to get a full-time job literally right out of the academy. And, back then it's kind of different than now. Now every agency's, fighting for people, and no one, not a whole lot of people want to be police officers anymore.
Right.
But back then it seemed like it was really, really hard to get jobs, so they would tell us in the academy, hey, you got to take the first job you can get because you're not going to get one, and so we were interviewing for several, agencies all over the state. And, but I was very, very fortunate to be able to be hired by, Thatcher, where I lived anyway and I wanted to be. And
which you realized in the military that was important.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I wanted to be where my family was, and and I like the community, right? So I kind of knew that I kind of want to stick around here.
Yeah. Do you know any, like, 'cause you're saying it's, there's a lot of places that aren't getting the recruits anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, the statistics on that nationwide or anything?
I don't. I know that, I mean, that's when I'll just tell you, I went last July. Obviously I retired this past April, but last July I went to Washington, D.C., to the FBI command course for agencies with 50 or less, and there chiefs and sheriffs from all over the country. And the number one thing that we talked about there was hiring, recruiting, retention, because nobody can get enough cops. It's all the same deal. We're all kind of fighting for the same smaller pool. The applicant pool is not as wide as it was, and a lot of things affect that. So
which I mean, it makes sense if you think about. I mean, the world that we live in today is different. It's hard to be a cop. I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning that your whole career you're trying not to be on YouTube.
Yes.
Everyone has a camera now, and unfortunately, people take advantage of that. And
yeah. I remember when I was in the academy. It was the Rodney King. That was, hey, don't be like Rodney, don't be like the guys with Rodney King. And a funny, interesting story. I can't verify the source on this, but when I was at some leadership training once, and they were talking about that whole Rodney King thing and how it kind of blew up in the media and everything, and they're making a point. So the guy who recorded that incident supposedly took his video to the LAPD station and said, "Hey, you guys need to watch this. This is a problem. You guys really need to the night sergeant." And the night sergeant said, "You can come back tomorrow and bring it to the lieutenant during the day shift or whatever it is," and kind of brushed him off. Well, the guy's like, "Well, they don't want to take my complaint." He sent him to the dudes, and so that's how that blew up.
Yeah.
So a lot of things like that. Obviously, I mean, those guys. There's a lot of bad things. Cops, are their own worst enemy at times. They
right.
But the very small minority, influences people to where you get painted with a broad brush sometimes, and right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that there's that. I mean, hopefully, because there's bad cops out there. I think everyone would agree there's bad cops out there. So the fact that this hopefully it does keep those types of individuals from doing something that they shouldn't be. But at the same time, you have the good cops that run into the annoying influencer that's just trying to get a bunch of likes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's hard to for the guy who wants to be a cop, but he's got a family and doesn't do, you weigh the good and the bad, and try to make those kinds of decisions, and then, you add on top of the risk and, the toll it takes. I mean, there's a toll. There's a toll that, every cop's going to pay, whether it's psychologically, mentally, it's hard on your family, those things, so it wasn't until I had kids that I realized, how much my job affected my family.
Yeah. Well, at what point in your career was that? Like, so when did you marry? When did you have kids?
So I started being I started in, first part of 1999. I didn't get married. I got married in August of 2000. So I was already a police officer when I met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
We're still married today, thankfully. She puts up the love. Do
you think she said yes because she was intimidated?
No, not a chance. Just chance. So, it was, she got to, I was a really young cop, so I didn't know that, I didn't know very much about it. And, I was fortunate. I would say I was fortunate to work with a lot of guys that were, more seasoned, more experienced. I think other than one other guy, I think everybody in the department at the time had over 10 years, a lot of really good men that, kind of were really good mentors for me. And those guys, they talked a lot about families and take care of your family, making your family a priority, those kinds of things. And so I always kind of tried to, because there was plenty of examples of, there's a high divorce rate in law enforcement, right? I think society in general, there's a, pretty high divorce rate, but law enforcement specifically, and especially locally at that time, it seemed like there were very few people that weren't getting divorced. So that was a big important thing to me. So my wife and I, we always make that a priority. To make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But yeah, it wasn't until my oldest kid wasn't born until 2003. So I had about 4 years on my own. He was born, and I just remember the first time. because, I took some time off and he was born, whatever, and going back to work, I remember going back to work, and I don't remember anything specific that happened, but, it's kind of, it was just a different feeling. Like,
you're not just working for yourself.
Yeah. Before, you kind of, I don't want to say reckless, but to be real, when you're young, nothing's going to ever hurt you, it's exciting, but I remember it was one of my first shifts back after having my first kid. I was like, man, like, I need to be a little more careful. Maybe I need to not be so quick to, jump into things that I don't know what's happening.
There's more on the line.
Yeah. Well, a sense of responsibility.
I think just becoming a dad in general completely shifts your mindset,
100%.
regardless of what you're doing. I mean, yeah. But then a job as stressful and risk related is that shift has got to be more extreme.
It was I remember exactly where I stand when I felt it. It's kind of like, wow, like, I gotta be careful. Like, there's now some, I felt a little bit of that when I got married, but not nearly what I felt like once my first kid was born, and so you start, I started paying more attention to training and trying to be a little bit more safe. I won't say cautious, because it's hard to be cautious when things are, happening, but you do your best.
Well, I experienced the same whenever I had my first kid. It's my career wasn't, or my job, it went from just going to work and getting an income to now I have a kid, I have a family. I need to really, the actions I'm doing now is setting me up later for life. And I'm not just provide for myself, but for my family as well. So it completely changes your mindset.
Change your mindset. My dad used to say, well, that's when you really grow up,
Yeah.
And, because shoot, what was I like? Oh, that's when he was born. 2003, so I was probably 26, 27 years old, so I mean, but I was still kind of young and in my mind.
Yeah.
maybe not so much in my body, but it was a humbling experience for me, for sure. I got promoted to a sergeant in 2006, which is, I think I'd been on 6 or 7 years with the police department. So I was a young supervisor in my mind. A lot of agencies you'll promote 3 to 4 years, but in smaller agencies, it's not.
You have longer tenure.
Yeah, but the reason is because we had a lot of older guys that were retiring.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so to become a supervisor at a young age, or a young career, I should say, was kind of an eye-opening experience for me as well. So I was supervising guys that had more time than me. Peer in your own department, it was tough. Tough to become, to be effective. But I did that for a while, and then in 2012, I actually became the police chief. And so even then, 12 and a half, 13 years on the department, that's a young chief in a lot of places. And a lot of the old chiefs, I go meet with these guys, the old chiefs, and they tell me, like, you're either the dumbest guy I know or the craziest. I don't know which one.
So you were the chief from 2012 to 2024. So 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
Yeah. Do you know, are there any, what's the average? Like,
so I've read statistics that will say anywhere the average police chief tenure is 2.5 to 3.5 years nationwide. I've heard varying 5-6 years. I don't know what it really is, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that job is a lot more stressful than a lot of. I never anticipated the amount of stress that I would feel.
Yeah.
In that position. When you're young and you're growing up, oh man, if I was a chief, I'd do this, I'd make this decision, and we'll do this and we'll do that and all these things. But when you're actually in that seat, it's a whole lot different.
Well, in a way, you're responsible for all these, stuff that happens. Yeah. You're going to feel responsible for it, whether it's your fault or not.
Yeah,
but you being in that position.
100%. And the thing is too, like I never really considered it until I was in that position. But I go home and I'm trying to take care of my family, do things with my family the whole time. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, I got guys out there that are doing dangerous things, and they got families, and they got kids, and they got wives, and all these things, and it weighs on you, man. You don't realize it.
Yeah, who was the chief before you?
Mark Stevens.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up. Gary Cleveland was the chief who hired me. Mike McHugh.
I was going to say Mike McHugh was the chief at some point.
Yeah, he was chief for quite a while. And then, funny enough, Mike was a sergeant at the time when I started in the department. And it's fun to work with Mike.
That's right.
I learned a lot of things from my.
Mark Steven. Yeah, that makes sense. I told a story on, I can't remember which podcast it was. I told my brown couch story, and Mark Stevens was the chief and came in and was in there. So,
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah, Mark was the chief, and then then me. So it was
Who's
interesting.
the chief now? Who's your successor?
So Glenore came back.
Oh, that's right.
He retired from Safford and came back to become the chief.
How long was he the chief in Safford, you know?
I want to say 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, so
it wasn't very long.
So, okay, so that's a question. If the national average is 2 to 5 years for police chief, is the next step usually retirement? I mean,
Usually. So in the public safety retirement system, pension system, for it's changed. So I'm in the old system. The new guys coming in now, the retirement is not nearly as good as it was for guys like me and older. At 20 years, you're eligible to retire in the old system. The system that I'm in. At 20 years, you become eligible. And they take that average of your highest paid 3 years, and that's what your pension is, right? For the rest of your life. So most people, because the chief, generally speaking, is kind of at will to either the town manager and or the city council, right? So something bad happens in your department, somebody gets upset, you can easily be thrown out of office. And so, because you're appointed, right? At will employee. So for me, at 12 years, becoming the chief was very risky. Had things not gone right, or the city council just said, hey, we don't need a reason, we're going to go a different direction, you're at the job, I would not been able to retire from that department.
So would they, I guess it's probably situational, but would they potentially give you the option to step down as chief? They still be on that's up to their
That's completely, your career is in their hands, effectively every day. So that in and of itself, for young family, I had young kids and stuff was, I always had a good relationship with the city council, all of them that, that were there during the time. I don't know how many chiefs go through a complete turnover of city council, but that happened while I was the chief. So, you just never know what's going to happen, So yeah, that was a lot of stress for my family,
Yeah. Well,
years.
I think Thatcher's also probably unique in how long, the town manager had, because you were there for 12 years, but you still only have 2 town managers, right? Terry and Heath.
Yeah. And statistically, nationally, the town managers are have a shorter tenure than police chiefs.
Yeah. And that's kudos to Terry Haynes, because he was the town manager for Thatcher for a long time.
And so, one of the interesting things is the whole time I was the chief in Thatcher, which there's only a couple agencies that do it this way in Arizona, is that I was hired and fired by the city council, right? So, but supervised daily by the manager. So, a lot of places you're at will to the manager, right? So at Thatcher, I was at will to the city council, supervised by the manager.
That's an interesting dynamic.
Is an interesting dynamic, 100%, because I essentially had 8 bosses.
Right.
Yeah. So
and you're supervised by one person, could be fired by another group of people, and those 2 different groups butt head a lot. And so you're trying to keep, play Switzerland or neutral, trying to keep them both happy with that. Yeah, that's and the fact that you're able to navigate that for 12 years is another
12 years in accomplishment. Several different city councilmen. So
yeah, I'm
kind of proud of that.
Yeah, you should be. I never considered that. That is impressive. Honestly,
it's I honestly will say, I tell everyone this. I was super blessed to work there. I really like Thatcher. We had our challenges, no question, but good people all in all. I think everyone at the end of the day, no matter disagree or agree, is there trying to do the right thing for a reason, and so that makes it easier.
Yeah, if you can go into things like that with the understanding that everyone is trying to do the best that they can, if you can have that understanding, it's a lot easier to come to different agreements and see eye to eye.
Yeah, people are gonna have personality conflicts everywhere you go. It's fine. I think that's part of being, I'll say, growing up, for lack of a better term, that, if you can have differences and be able to communicate those. I may not agree with your position, but we can.
So we're friends.
we can disagree and still do. We're both having good intentions on trying to do what's best for the city.
Right.
Whether or not we agree on the approach or the method, that's.
I wish that was a lot more commonplace in our world, especially presidential election right now. I really wish people could have that mindset a lot, just because your candidate might not be my candidate.
Right.
You know, we might not see eye to eye on everything, but I think the most topics or most issues, I think people are closer than what they actually realize.
I think too, a lot of times people get confused between their perception and their perspective.
Mhm.
And a lot of times their perception, I think, is based off of your perspective. Right?
Yeah.
So I know that, in my experience of becoming, going from a patrol officer to being the chief of police, when I was the patrol officer, I had all the answers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I knew, the chief used to do this, and the sergeant used to do that, whatever, right? Getting to that level, you realize, okay, there's more factors than what I had believed. You know? So like, we got this over here, we got budget over here, we got liability over here. I mean, all the things, right? And so you're trying to, from a different perspective, it's a whole lot more complicated than what it might appear to be. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, to your point of just people being able to communicate their, what they're trying to communicate. I feel like cell phones and social media have just completely destroyed that. Like kids that grow up. Thankfully, I'm old enough that I didn't grow up on cell phones, but kids nowadays, like they grow up, their only form of communication is texting.
Yeah.
It is such much more of a challenge for them to communicate their.
Absolutely. It's difficult to have a conversation about things.
And then social media just stokes those fires of like the tribalism, bull crap.
The other issue is, like, if you're on social media, you hear the extremes more than anything else.
Yes.
And so it makes you think that more people are feeling that way because they're the loudest.
Right.
It's giving them that platform but I feel like that is still the extreme. Just because you're seeing it more than anything else, there's a lot more people that are on common ground back then.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think it's just going to get, just the world in general, because of that, is going to get scarier and scarier. I honestly think everyone's goal is just to.
Well, like for me, I'm kind of ignorant of texting. Like apparently, I'm learning this from my kids is that exclamation marks means I'm yelling at them. Oh, I didn't know that. I was not aware.
Yeah, they do now.
So I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I can't punctuate anything.
You cannot read emotion on a text.
No,
it's impossible.
Yeah.
And if you are reading emotion, you're probably reading it wrong. Like I guarantee you, I have multiple fights with my wife because I'm interpreting something, or she's interpreting something, not the right way, because it's just impossible to.
Yeah, there's not enough context.
And I avoid texts with my wife for that.
Yeah,
it's going to be a phone call before we have this conversation over text because something's going to be lost.
Yeah, it's true. You can also use it to your advantage to maybe if you want this, but if you're feeling feisty or whatever.
No, I have a sister that is very expressive when she talks, but her texts are like one-liners. Monotone, like because she didn't grow up with cell phones. She doesn't know.
Just answering the question. Yeah,
answering the question.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. And then apparently leaving someone on red is very offensive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that if I was mowing the grass or something and I get a text and I read it, so I take my read receipts off.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
it's just completely reasonable. Like at any other point in our lives, you weren't expected to just stop everything you were doing to respond to a stupid text,
Yeah.
So,
it goes back to in any organization, in any job, any communication, right? Like that's number one problem that happens with people. So that's the challenge.
Yeah. And I think it's getting every day more and more challenging.
Yeah. We're not helping. The technology
help.
Is not helping us in that area. It's more convenient, but it is definitely leads to, I think, a lot more
misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. Yeah. Causes a lot more misunderstandings. So retired this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What led to that decision? What are you doing now? Just finally, 12 years was enough.
So I had, obviously I had a plan. I was gonna. My plan was to work. Part of the retirement system is, I don't know if you're familiar with the drops program that's available to, in public safety retirement system. So at any time you're post 20, for me, you're eligible to retire. You can enter what's called the drops program, and that basically you agree to retire in I think it's 5 years from the date you enter drops program. You can only stay 5 more years. But you're locked in at whatever year you enter that program in, and then at the end of that 5 years, you end up with a lump sum of money on top of your pension that you locked in right here. So my plan was to do 25 years enter the jobs program, do 5 more years, and then just be done all together. And that would have provided me probably enough money to where I wouldn't have had to, go to work again or whatever. But I was only going to be 52 years old right at that time. So I always kind of had it in my mind that I was going to have to work, plus benefits, I need benefits. I still have a young kid at home. I still got my wife at home. I got 2 adult kids now still at home. Right. So I knew that I would need to have a job, I'd have my pension, but I need benefits, and I'm still young enough. Why not just keep working?
Right.
And then I saw an opportunity at Freeport McMoran in Stanford here. I saw, hey man, that'd be a pretty good job. I'm going to have to work anyways. So we kind of started, looking at different things, look at different financial, stuff with that. And, I kind of had a decision, should I just at least test the water, right? See if I can even get a job outside. Right. It's not, it's not law enforcement. That's pretty much what I know. Right. So I had a friend of mine, and he said, hey, dude, what does it hurt to put in an application, see what happens? Either, it's the job that I have now. I'm the senior supervisor of security at Freeport Stafford. Generally speaking, it's kind of it's a senior supervisor job. So, a lot of times they'll have people already working, that would be into those jobs. And
or
so
at least expecting to.
Yeah. And so, I didn't think that there would be a real high chance that I would, get that job. But I had a friend of mine who said, hey, you know what? You can always say no. You don't have to accept it, right? So you don't have to make any decisions because there's no decision being made until you get offered a job, right? So that is okay. Well, let's see what happens, right? So I did. I applied for a job, and they offered me a job, and
you really had to think about it.
And I was like, oh crap, man! Now I got to make some decisions, right? So we ended up being, at the time, it ended up. I was, to be honest, I was ready to not be the chief anymore. Yeah. 12 years being the chief, I kind of felt like I still loved being a cop, but I was kind of done being the chief. I wanted to do something different. But I didn't know what that was. And it's really hard to just, I'm not going to be a chief anymore. What do? You go back, it's just kind of one of those things. So yeah, we made a decision. They offered me the job. We made a decision to go ahead and retire. And, my wife and I, and it's been good so far.
It's awesome.
I miss some of the things about, law enforcement. I miss the, the exciting stuff. I miss the guys and,
That's one thing I mean, security at a place like Freeport, going from being a cop and seeing all that exciting stuff every day. Like, have you had any exciting, anything ever?
Well, so, no.
That's what I imagine. I mean, who's going to go cause a problem in the mine?
Freeport is very well ran. I mean, I've been super impressed with how they run, how they do things, their processes, their, the people there, they're very safety conscious. I mean, that's a big thing. That's super good, super cool. It's fascinating what they do. I mean, there's so much moving parts up there. It's kind of, I'm kind of in awe of it, to be honest. Still. But to your point, for my job, specifically, I mean, I'm supervising people. I have supervisors and I have staff that work for me. I have bosses, I answer to the managers over health and safety and rescue, and then but I'm high enough where I have some influence in things, but I'm not high enough where I make all the decisions, right? So it's kind of a good place to be.
Yeah.
But security, we think of security, like for what our role is there, is a little bit of security, but there's a whole lot of, we check in all the trucks, we weigh trucks, we are, a lot of property entry control, a lot of that kind of stuff. So it's not a whole lot of, enforcing the law, so to speak, up there as much as, or maybe I would, we're not, we're not going to go break up fights, and we're not going to go, which don't really happen there. Right. So at least not that I know of very often. So
okay, I'm curious. Let's say there was one, would that be under your job description, is to kind of
we would basically, we would kind of facilitate the sheriff's department to come and do but it's kind of weird. I don't know if it's everyone just seems to get, from what I've seen so far. I mean, they have, who knows? I'm still a new guy, right?
Right.
So far it's been, everyone just kind of gets along and does their thing. And
everyone's adults, they should be able to get along.
And those are good paying jobs. People don't want to lose their job,
Right.
So, it's kind of, I had to say they kind of police themselves in a way. So, which is good.
Yeah.
I really respect that. So, there's incidents from time to time, but for the most part, it's pretty calm. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy it, but I do miss it more, the camaraderie of police departments. Then, that's big.
Your hours got to be better now, though.
It doesn't know. I was salaried being the chief. I'm salary there. I generally speaking, I usually can get out of there about 2 or 3.
Yeah. That's not really as far as your scheduling.
I started a little earlier there than I was at the city, which is cool because I have a young kid at home, so I could generally get home, be home with him in the evenings, and so that's cool.
Are your other kids jealous?
So funny thing you got that
completely different upbringings for your children. Yeah.
So my older boys, I worked shift work patrol most of their childhood.
Yeah.
I have a 21-year-old, an 18-year-old, and an 11-year-old. So there's a pretty good gap in between them. And so my youngest son he was born after I was the chief already. So he doesn't know I need the working all nights, the uniform as much, the cop car, patrol car. So yeah, it was funny. I would take him to school most days and drop him off on my way to work. And that's one of the things is he didn't ever want me to come to pick him up wearing the uniform, right? Well,
you didn't want.
No, he did not want. He doesn't want the cops coming pick him up from school, right?
That's interesting.
But my other kids loved it.
Yeah.
When they were little, if they, before I go to work, we turn the lights on. If I came to school, I'm the cop.
Right.
It was just completely different. They liked it, and but my little one didn't. He wasn't about it. So
interesting.
But to your point, his whole life has been different.
Yeah.
And my older boys, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
So the whole missing birthdays and missing dinner and all those things that happen for my older boys, not so much with my younger.
Yeah.
So
they probably feel a little jaded.
They might. So
so I'm from a big family. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and me and my sister Bethany. Honestly, the youngest were spoiled compared to the others. But it makes sense because my parents were. And this is across the board. You're at a different stage the younger you are. As you continue in your career, usually you make more money later on. So we were able to go on a lot better vacations than my older siblings were. Kind of just I was dealt a good hand. Sorry, guys.
It was backwards for me. Now I've never ever thought about this until you just said that. But growing up, my dad owned the fertilizer store until I was about 10 years old, and then he had
what fertilizer store?
Like Arizona. It used to be Kempton's Chemicals.
Yep.
Kempton.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember that. I bought my first police gun.
Yeah,
from your dad.
My dad used to have it's funny. I was just talking with a client today about this. He used to have his FFL, and he ran the fertilizer company and sold guns.
Yeah, he sold me my Police Academy, man. Yeah, my very first duty gun. Back then, we brought our own guns to work.
That's crazy.
So that was that's where we got.
Revolved.
So what all your older siblings got?
So they got a dad that came home at like 5 o'clock every day.
Yeah,
and then he changed careers to be a paramedic, which a lot of schedules like law enforcement. So there was a lot of times where we didn't see my dad for 3 or 4 days because he had a shift here, then a shift here. And
and they got to work several different jobs to get paid. Another like teachers, they need more money.
Exactly. It's so funny, but I've never even thought about that until.
They talk about it's often talked about. The little one's life is so much easier than
I can't argue. Honestly, not only that, but when you're the oldest kid, they're also feeding all of the younger mouths too. My siblings got out of the house. All of a sudden, there's more money, and we went on some pretty cool vacations that I know my older siblings weren't able to do, and they give me crap for that. But it is what it is. I had to deal with them freaking. Okay, my brother. They literally, this probably happened once, but I felt like it happened all the time. Tied me to a chair, put peanut butter on my face, and but no, I'm just leaving off. It's like, if you give it, you take, So I got to go to Hawaii because I had to deal with that crap.
Yeah, that's true. It is true, for sure.
So beyond law enforcement, what you do now, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, so
what's life like outside of?
we like to travel. My wife and I, we like to travel.
Yeah.
You know, we like to. We don't get to do it nearly as much as we want to. We have big plans for that, you know, coming up. But I hunt. Not a very good fisherman, so I don't even really claim to be a fisherman. But I do like to hunt. It's tough to get tags for me. I think I used all my. I was talking about the turkey that I got. That I shouldn't have got, but since then I've been somewhat cursed as far as getting tags.
Yeah.
But I do like to that. I coach. I've been coaching football for probably, I think I'm up 17 or 18 years now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I started out with my second son is a type 1 diabetic. And when he was 7 years old, I think he started playing football. Maybe younger than that. No, he's younger than that. But he was 7 when he got diagnosed with diabetes. And so I kind of needed to be there to kind of help him because, you know, while he's playing football, so he just didn't want to be everybody's a coach.
Yeah.
So I kind of started coaching, youth football then. And
Me and Shaffen are coaching together.
that's right. We got a team.
Well, I'm kind of just going to be in the background.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that.
You'll bring that orange slices.
Yeah, that's it. Juice box. So I coached with him till he just graduated high school this last year. I worked my way up with him. You know, I was coaching high school football. I coached 3 seasons with Thatcher at the high school. I coached a couple seasons, probably 3 seasons of the junior high, and just kind of coached a lot of football. I wanted to just be a parent and watch him play football, for at least 1 season before he was done. So I did that, but at the same time, my younger boy started playing football. So I ended up coaching the flag football team last start. We're right back to we're right starting right over again. Yeah, he played flag football last year, and then this year he played tackle football, and so here I am again. Yeah. So
I've heard I have one daughter, she's 3 years old, so I haven't gone through that circuit yet. But I've heard those flag football leagues can get pretty crazy.
They do. It's safer to play tackle.
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
seriously. Well, so Kyson's in the same grade as your son, right?
I think so.
Gonna be in 5th grade?
Oh no, Kyron's in 6th grade.
I
think the same age.
Okay,
they've been playing football together.
Yeah. So Kyson, Kevin's a little bit of a bigger kid, and last year we brought him up early to play tackle for that reason, because flag, you're still dealing with little kids that can't control their bodies, but he's bigger than a lot of kids, so unintentionally we knock kids down and get parents that are just take off thinking they're playing dirty. Like, no, he doesn't know how to control his body.
They're like them guys.
So we're like, you know what? Last year we're like, let's put him into tackles so that we don't have to worry about that, because it would have been a nightmare. Because he wasn't even the oldest in the age group yet, and people were getting mad at him because he was a little rough. Not because he's the sweetest kid, and he wasn't doing anything intentional, but
it gets rowdy.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. My older boys, they played tackle when they were 7, 8 years old. And now you got the other one, 11, 12 would be. Or a parent has to.
11 is the age group, but we brought Kyson up when he was 10.
Yeah. And so, for my younger kid, he's getting a different experience than that too, right? He'll have 1 year of tackle football before junior high. And we'll see how that goes. He's a big kid. So, yeah. And that's one thing that's cool about, all my kids are big. They get my mom's dad was big. My wife's dad is big. My kids my older boys are 6'2", 250-ish range, so they're big kids. So coaching, I've coached teams that my kids were on, but they're always live and I don't have to coach them.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's been fun. It's a lot of coaching football. It's a time-consuming endeavor.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you've also come back to your career a little bit. You're kind of somewhat coming full circle because you are running for Thatcher Town Council too. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was never a goal, never planned mine to run for political office, right? I never really saw myself as a politician, so to speak. But since I retired, I started thinking, man, what am I going to do? I've like I said, I've been in the military. When I was 18 years old, was a cop for 25 years. I guess I've been in some sort of service since pretty much I can remember, so I'm like, man, I'm retired. What do I do? So I had some friends that were like, hey, you should consider running for city council. You might bring a different perspective, having worked for the cities for so many years and kind of, seeing all the moving parts.
I think you'd have a great perspective. I mean, who better to be in charge of hiring the the chief, or, you know, at least being part of that decision, than someone who was the chief for 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know that's just one aspect of that job, but yeah, you've been involved with the town. I mean, I feel like that's quite, you know, it's valuable experience for someone to be on the council.
Yeah, you know, being the chief, you know, for all those years, you know, I was pretty much at every council meeting,
Right.
you know, pretty near all council meetings. And so
I would say
part of the budgeting processes and, you know, working through issues and listening to, you know, debates and arguments over this or that, or what's priorities but not just that, you know, just being part of working for the city, you know,
knowing how the city functions.
and you know, and knowing like the people, you know, and what the concerns of people are, you know, some of the most irate I ever saw citizens get is over their trash not getting picked up. You know?
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm one of them.
yeah, I mean, you can, you know, you can have potholes in your roads, you can do, but you don't pick their trash up, man.
For 3 years, I've had to wheel my trash down the road, but that's all been solved thanks to Tommy Nicholas and Heath Brown have hooked me up, and they're driving down my road to get my trash now.
That's good. That is good. I mean, and that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. Like, you know, I think sometimes with the city, it's easy to get wrapped up in big projects. You know, we're going to rebuild 8th Street. Great project, needed to happen for years.
Yeah. Super
pumped about that. You know, Tom Palmer and Heath and all the guys, Tom Nicholas, all those guys are going to make that happen. That's phenomenal. That is needed. That's been, I used to call that road, you know, back in the day, you know, they had the real deep irrigation ditches.
Yeah.
You know, I call those the drum catchers. You know, that's where the drums are. Right? Scary driver, super sketchy. And,
sober guy here driving on that road is scary.
Yeah. So, you know, it was, that is needed to have for a long time. I'm pretty excited about that project.
They're also straightening out 8th Street in the right lane now, right?
Yeah.
So
and that was kind of, that was back when I was in the chief, that, you know, a lot of the complaints were, you know, you got a ton of people coming to the park, the soccer fields, which is been a great addition to the city.
Get this busy road,
but it's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit,
Yeah.
and then I think they reduced it to 35.
Yeah.
But you know, you got cars backing in, you got kids running across the street, and people are just flying around. And like, it was a fatality we didn't have.
Right. Well, and the town already owns that.
They do.
So they're just
Not to mention, let's be real, there is not enough parking over there.
Right.
You know, everybody knows.
So do you know, I think there's a road that goes by Carter's. Are they just moving it to that road?
Yeah. There'll be a slight jog, I think, right by the Carter's.
I'm sure I love that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, you know, it's.
Yeah, I don't know what their feeling is about it. You know, it will definitely bring them more traffic, but it'll provide a whole lot of parking for events and stuff that's going on at the park. So.
I've heard that little corner, that triangle there, is the potential location for the potential rec facility that they've been talking about for. That's just one of the areas
your breath
that
maybe your grandkids will enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But there's a lot of space there. Is all I'm saying. For parking and stuff.
Tons of space. Yeah. So there's and that's the thing. Like, getting back to my decision, you know, is why I decided to run for city council. Is you know, I kind of almost feel like an obligation, so to speak. I don't know if that's probably right now a real good term to say, but you know, I've just been I've been serving the town for so long. It kind of feels weird to not.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is I would bet money that you've attended more council meetings than any of the other candidates.
That's probably.
I mean,
probably high chance on that. You know, and just to your point, to understand it from you know, we make decisions based on our perceptions and our experiences, right? And so I've got to experience being an employee on the recipient end of a business decision, you know, for the town to either cut benefits or increase benefits, or, you know, hey, we're going to go this route, we're going to do this different than that, you know. And so I kind of know how that affects me as an employee. But on top of that, I also know from managing department in the city, like, okay, this is why we have to make those decisions, you know. And so I think that I can offer, you know, at least some meaningful discussions, you know, meaningful information to those discussions, you know.
How many, I should probably know this, but I don't, how many seats are open and how many people are running?
So there's four seats up for election. One of the candidates, Ashley Smith, she chose to not run this term. And so I guess there's 3 returning councilmen that are running. But I think there's 7 total running for 4 seats.
Gotcha. Okay.
How long is the term?
So it's a 4-year term.
But the councils, they, right, so
Four are up this time. In 2 years, 3 will be up.
Oh,
again.
yeah.
So they overlap like that.
So not all, because how many total are there?
There's 7
So
total.
not all total, not all 7 expired.
Yeah. So you'll at least have some continuity.
Yeah, some senior
For 2
council
years.
members
Right.
in June. Yeah.
So it's kind of why it's.
Which 3-year, so Ashley's leaving, what are the other 3?
The mayor, Randy Bryce, Eddie Carlton, and Mark Miney are the 3 that are up for to try and return.
Yeah. And then 4 people
On top of that.
So potentially all 3 could return, and then 1 new one, if depending on who it is. But
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I hope after 8th Street they fix the highway.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, ADOT controls it.
The town.
I'll tell you, that's been frustrating.
ADOT.
Everybody else. It is a mess. Every improvement that we have tried to do on the highway has been a nightmare. We've fought with ADOT. We wanted to put the flashing signs at the school zone crossing. No, can't do it. Want to put a stoplight in at First Avenue? Oh, can't do it. Like, it's all ADOT regulated. And so
what's frustrating is Thatcher does a really good job at chip sealing and repaving all of their streets. So all their streets are really good. And then you go down the middle of the highway and it's terrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
Like
It's a challenge. It's a challenge,
Yeah.
We had issues with we did the street improvement in front of La Casita we're having cars getting hit, people parking in the road. I've worked car pedestrian accidents there. I've had people run around the sidewalk there over the years. We were like, we got to do something with this issue. It's dangerous, right? And so we did, and it was a fight.
You're real clever, but you took my parking spot. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's why, I think it's pretty, most people agree that a stoplight needs to go on First Avenue right there on that turn, and that's been needed for years. And
that's the scariest one to come out on.
Yes, back in ADOT, right where
almost every person in town tells their kids don't use that intersection.
Yeah.
That's a problem. But it doesn't meet their criteria for a stoplight, so we're not getting one. So it's frustrating. But those are the things that the average person may not know takes place, but that's the reason. I know that the town's taking a lot of heat over those issues when it's not even their fault. Not even their problem yet.
Yeah, and that's
it's our problem. It's not our, I guess, responsibility.
And not that I'm sure the town wishes they could.
100%.
It was their responsibility.
Every one of those things would be done. And so ADOT, I remember being in one meeting and someone from ADOT was talking about that. You could do it. You can take over the whole road and maintain it and do all those things. But the cost to that of paving a whole highway through town, it would break the town. So, we could do that, but it's not fiscally responsible, I guess, would be the time to do that.
That's crazy.
So no, my decision to run for city council is not, like I said, I have nothing against the end of the council. They were great to me. While I was there, I just, with Ashley not running, I felt like, I'm running for the MTC.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to join that. And then, like I say, if not, basically I felt like, hey, I'll throw myself out there. If people feel inclined to vote for me, they will. If they don't want to, they don't want to. That's fine. I got many things I could be doing, but if they think that it's valuable for me to be on there, I'll be on there. But why not?
What is the vote? Is it the same?
They're just the 30th.
By the end of the month, and then I think you have to get a certain percentage of the vote in there to be on, but most times it rolls into
and it's not a Democrat Republican thing. It is
most votes. Doesn't matter. You don't have to declare a party,
right?
So it'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes, and like I say, if not, I'm still on the roll as a reserve police officer, so with the town. So, I have not yet really got out on patrol or not. So working things out on that, but
it's a volunteer position.
Yeah. It's unpaid. And, so, I have that option, I could go work some shifts, but if I get elected, I probably won't. I'll probably just go in and be done all the way just for, I don't know if it's a conflict or not, but it probably just feels like it might be.
Yeah.
So if I want to be able to, vote on issues that have to do with the police department, I don't know that I could if
you were there.
Still with the police department. So, but that's just a way to keep my certification. You never know what's going to happen down the road, or you just want to do it again or not, or I'm getting older. If things hurt more than they did when I first started. And so, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, cool, man. Well, I think our time's pretty well spent. I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to talk about. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot about you that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I have something else that I remember. You'll like this. You have a younger brother.
I do.
Michael Woods.
Yep.
Tell us about the reason I said Davis likes to do pellet grilling.
Awesome.
So you might have used some, is it his company or does he work for the company?
Well, I don't know what this company he works for now. My brother, he lives in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And his father-in-law had purchased a company that made the pellets for wood burning stoves and stuff. And they sold pellets to Traeger and Camp Chef and Pit Boss and all those big names. And so they would send him around to all these different smoking conventions or contests or whatever, all the national ones, and he'd get to be a judge and things like that. They liked it. And
I've been a judge at a barbecue competition. It's
I did it one time, and I'm telling you, it might nettle.
I was going to do it. Is that the one that you did?
Is it in Tucson or where?
No. So the one with Mike Nettle, Mike's unrelated to Mike. He does a huge thing up in the White Mountains, and I was going to be a judge there, but I had a deer hunt. Oh, it was a good tag that I drew. So
I told him, man, keep me on the short list because that was a good time.
And apparently it's like a whole thing, a whole like society of barbecue judges. They have, so the one that I went to was at an RV park in Tucson. Can't remember the name.
How did you score that?
My brother lived in Tucson. He's going to med school, and he called me one day and he's like, hey, do you want to judge a barbecue competition? And I'm like, I like all of those things. I'm a judgy person. I love barbecue.
I love judging.
I love judging. And so he signed me up, and it was like one of the competitions that you didn't have to be a certified judge, because apparently that's a real thing. You have to be a certified. Anyway,
you should look for getting into that.
You go and you sit, and they just bring you plate after plate. You're supposed to just take one bite for the taste.
That'd be the hardest part.
It is. But then you get to keep the whole plate, and you just you bring a cooler with you, and you keep all the meat that they give you.
Yeah,
man. And
fantastic.
You judge the presentation, the taste, I
had some of the best ribs I ever had.
Best.
So we sponsored Mike's up there, and that's why basically because you're a big sponsor, I was able to be a judge if I wanted to, but then I drew that 3A3Z archery tag.
Yeah.
And I didn't make it.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to wonder if I make it.
You should call them and say, hey, put me back up with this, because no, it was fantastic. So,
yeah.
So Vista Outdoors purchased that company that my brother worked for. Is it Fiber Energy Products? I think it was the name of it. And then they have it. And then I think they sold it to someone else or something, but he's now working for a different company. But
I always thought that was interesting. That
it's going.
There's all these different types of careers that you don't realize are there, but someone's got to sell barbecue pellets.
If I were on the school board or something like that, I would say we need to have a class that is just you learn about a new career every single day. Because you think growing up at Thatcher, all I knew that you could be a doctor, you could be an engineer, you could be a police officer. I didn't even know that a loan officer was a thing.
Right.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, that's true. And to that point, I just started working for Report, and every day I learn of a new job, a new career there.
Right.
I'm like, Report has that. Like, it's like super eye-opening to me. Yeah, I agree. There's millions of things people can do.
It should be an elective that I feel like everybody should take, just to learn about it new.
It should almost be mandatory.
Because how are you supposed to make those? You're making decisions to go to college and spend all this money and degrees and this and that. You don't know what you're going to be.
Exactly.
And to be honest, I didn't know what I was going to be. I spent 4 years in the military. I didn't know what I was going to be.
Yeah.
So.
And that, it's not like you wouldn't run out of topics.
Yeah.
So I was about to say you can almost focus on one career a week, but that's almost too much. Like you wouldn't cover enough. You wouldn't cover enough careers. That should be it.
Yeah.
I think you should run for Thatcher school board.
Somebody told me I should recently, and
that's two.
It's
a sign.
I'm not doing it.
I had someone contact me once about being on running for the planning and zoning committee.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I don't want to be involved in that.
Maybe I could have built my house if you were on planning. So I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got to be careful for is that, there are people that want a certain thing
For selfish reasons.
and you to be their pawn in the game, so to speak. And so,
well, and being on school board or town council or planning and those types of things, you're never going to make everybody happy.
100%.
In fact, you'll probably almost make more people unhappy by making the
sadly
logical decisions.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Way I look at it, to your point, being a police officer is kind of the same thing. Like you're not going to make too many people happy most of the time, but once in a while you get to.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, as far as the city council goes, if I get elected, I'm one voice of 7, and hopefully I can have some influence, right? I understand I can't control things,
right?
But to have some input to maybe at least bring up some interesting points, for discussion, that's what I can contribute.
You would definitely bring a unique perspective and a valuable one. I think given your history, and I think that you bring a great perspective to the council.
A lot of people ask me, "What's your agenda? What action are you trying to grind?" I'm like, I have no action to grind. I loved my career at the town of Thatcher. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have any ill will against the town of Thatcher.
I'm not going to say anything. There's definitely people that will join something like that because of a specific thing that they want.
Yeah. And to me, it's not even about, it's not really about that. To me, it's about, like I said, get back to the majority of the people that are on those positions are trying to do something good for their community. They're not trying to sabotage something.
Right.
Hopefully, but there are those that have agendas, and I feel almost ill prepared when someone says, "What's your agenda?" I'm like, I don't have one. Like, I want to
make town of Thatcher a better place.
Yeah, I want it to be part of the decision making process. I want to be able to represent the people of the community, that maybe don't want to go to a city council meeting, right? Or maybe they don't have time. Maybe some people can't even go to the county. Their health doesn't let them get out of home. But they have concerns, and their concerns are valuable, the same as anyone else. So. I just want to be kind of a voice for that. And, if it makes an impact, then that's great. And if not, then, I tried. So
it is, when we were petitioning for the whole, road, anyway, that's a story for another day, but the town council meetings are actually pretty fun to go to.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're interesting when you think they wouldn't be that interesting.
Yeah. I like it when they have when they debate stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what people want people, everyone has a different perspective, so, I've been to a lot of meetings where it's just, they say this on the agenda and they look at us vote and we vote and that's it. And it's not like, what's the point, right?
Right.
We could have done that over an email, I think, so let's talk about it. What are the pros and the cons, and are we doing the right thing for the right reasons and for the community and all things? So, but ultimately, the thing is, I just want to, to contribute to responsible management of the city. That's kind of what my goal is, I guess. If I were to have an agenda, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that. Responsible management of the city. Yeah. Which really is all it should be. Honestly shouldn't have an agenda. Yeah. I mean, you should want to make a difference. Yeah. It's kind of exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like I say, I've kind of, been serving so long, it almost feels like wrong to not, kind of. And my wife and I, we've had this talk a lot. She said, "Why would you want to? You just get out of there. Why do you want to do that?" I'm like, I always feel like I should. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. It might be part too, like say I planned on staying in the city about 5 more years and I left, I left on my own terms, and I left, I felt like I, did enough time there and whatever. And I made a decision, that benefits me financially, benefits my family. It was a good decision in that aspect. And there were some things that I was ready to kind of be done with some of the things, being the chief or whatever. But all in all, it's kind of before I was really planning on leaving. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, cool. I wish you the best of luck with it. Are you stressed about it at all?
No. Yeah. No, I honestly, like I said, I have no idea how I shall go. It could go good. I could not get any votes. I know I got 3 votes because 3 people in my house voted for me.
We talked to PJ Allred, and that's his livelihood.
Yes,
he's being elected, and if he doesn't get elected, he's have a job, so that would be super stressful. So it's nice kind of being able to do it as a volunteer, like wanting to help, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
I mean, I honestly, I'm going to be fine no matter what, there's plenty for me to do. There's plenty, it's just another opportunity to serve in a different capacity and, more, I guess I'm kind of intrigued by it because it's different, something different. It's not a huge time commitment, whereas some jobs are, but nonetheless, it's an important one. And
absolutely.
And I think that I can bring some value to it. So hopefully it goes that way.
Well, good luck.
If not, I'll be hunting a lot more and fishing. Doing red reels.
So you put it that way, I don't know why you're running.
I know. I do. That's exactly what I said. Aren't you tired, Bones? Means like what?
That's part of the routine.
Yeah. It is. And it is still on my calendar.
Right on
Monday night.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for coming and stopping by.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys. This is kind of cool.
We need to keep having more police officers on and getting the good graces of police officers, and then
just keep bringing it by.
Walk free through.
Put in a good word.
Yeah.
No, Dave just likes to speed.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Like you, G.